I've always believed culture eats strategy for lunch. Culture builds success because you have the right people working together in a team environment, a collaborative environment, then you're going to grow your business.
You're listening to Building Dallas, hosted by Arrington Roofing. With 42 years of roofing North Texas, Arrington Roofing is building a better roof for you.
Hello, my name is Reese Arrington. Welcome back to Building Dallas. Presented by Arrington Roofing, we're building a better roof for you. Today's guest started in law as the co-founder of McCathern Mooty, then jumped into entrepreneurship, helping launch a first-of-its-kind payments partnership in pro sports and scaling Blue Star Sports into a global youth sports platform. He's partnered with the Dallas Cowboys organization, raised capital from top-tier investors, and now leads an @Properties Dallas team spanning residential, commercial, and ranch properties. We're talking law to startup lessons, elite partnerships, raising big money, and where the real opportunities are in North Texas today. Welcome, Jerry Mooty.
Thank you for having me.
That's quite a resume to have right there that I got to read off the screen, but I know that there's a lot more to the man than just what's on paper. So I just want to give you an opportunity to tell us any part of your story and who you are, how you got here, how did you get to where you are today, what makes you?
Sure. So a little background. So grew up in Springfield, Missouri. Family all went to University of Arkansas, so I thought that's where I was going to go. Had a pretty good high school football career. Was too small for my position. I was a running back at 160 pounds, but I was third in the state. So had some opportunities to play college football. Ended up changing my mind from Arkansas to SMU at the last minute, kind of a random deal where I read that SMU was getting their football team back from the death penalty. So called 411 back then and got a hold of the athletic department at SMU and ended up talking to the new head coach of SMU, Forrest Gregg, and within a few days had an application approved to go to SMU in 1988. So that's what got me to Dallas. So have always been kind of doing things. I'm an only child, so I go out and have always fought for what I believe in and had tried to make things happen. So that started on when I was 18.
Wow. So you came in, you brought us something. You brought these hats for us. And I just want to ask you, your current endeavor right now is Christie's, right?
Correct.
Properties.
Correct.
And so is this kind of some part of your branding for that company?
Yeah, so Christie's International Real Estate, it's an affiliate network, so fancier name for franchise. So I own all the Christie's affiliates in Texas. So we have 5 offices in total, 4 in DFW and 1 in Austin. When I acquired those franchises, it came along with a group out of Chicago called @Properties. They used the @ symbol. And as part of their marketing campaign several years ago, they rolled out the Love campaign. So they would say, bringing the love to Chicago, bringing the love to the community. And so we've really leaned on that since we've launched our affiliate. And so we say bringing the love to Dallas or Southlake or Fort Worth or Austin. So it's been ironic that we use that in our marketing campaign. And then we came up with these trucker hats. And everywhere I wear one, I get people come up and says, where'd you buy it? Yeah. And I say, well, they're not for sale, but give me a business card. And I'm usually sending them a hat with a thank you note or something like that. Oh. So I've been on about 5 or 6 jumbotrons at sporting events because of the love hat. Wow. So UT, Mavericks. So it's kind of stands out in the crowd.
Everybody loves love, right?
That's right. Yeah. How can you get mad at that?
That's great. So, as a branding thing, obviously people love it. But what does that look like in business to have that attitude towards your clients, towards the community in action? How does that inform what you do?
I think it boils down to how you want to run your company and what, we call agents. So Christie's is a real estate brokerage firm. So we have a bunch of agents buying and selling real estate. We have some other divisions we can talk about. But really, how do you keep those agents happy and loyal to you? And so we really believe and lean heavily into building a right culture. And so this kind of plays into a little bit of that. But we're very social. We're very community driven. We do a lot of events inside the office and out with our agents. So, my experience through running a law firm for 17 years and then the other endeavors, I believe strongly that culture, builds success more so than strategy builds success.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's really hot topics right now. I feel like on social media, everything I get on Instagram is, business and sales and having the right SOPs and, like you said, strategy. And when I started working with my dad, I realized, wow, man, this guy has an incredible amount of patience for the people on his team. And he's invested into people in the long term, and it shows because people love working here and they stay around. But, more than just the systems and the processes and all that, building the culture trickles down from the top. And I think that is really difficult to find people that really match you on culture. How do you find talent that are hardworking, dedicated individuals who also hold the same values?
I mean, part of it is experience. Just going through the interview process, I can usually tell right out of the gate if somebody is going to be a good fit or not. But you also, especially in the law business, you get hoodwinked every once in a while and think somebody's one way, and then they come in and their personality or something may not fit your culture. So you got to make some changes. The other thing I think that's very important, and your dad probably would agree, is not everybody's going to get along in the beginning. It's like building a football team, and you got to learn how to be a teammate. And some people may come from a different environment and not know how to be a teammate. And so there's a lot of coaching that goes along with that, a lot of training, a lot of addressing any kind of personality conflicts that arise. And ultimately, you want people to get along. And if they can't, then you usually make a change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it seems like you have a very serve first oriented, serve first mindset in your business, whether it comes to serving your clients or your employees, to keep them satisfied. Where did that come from? I mean, I know a lot of people that are successful, and it seems like it was all about money or success or power, which, money isn't a bad thing, right? We all want to do well and give back to our communities. What drove you to be successful coming out of SMU? What was that urge?
Probably the biggest kind of business figure / father figure was my mom's dad, my grandfather, Pat Jones. He was a phenomenal man. He came from a small town in England, Arkansas, got into the grocery store business, so he was very community ingrained, so much so that my mom and my uncle were helping people get their shopping carts out when they showed up at 5, 6, 7 years old, and walking them through the grocery store and helping them get their groceries. So very, very hands-on, community service driven. He then moved on into the insurance business. So he was selling life insurance. And so very face-to-face, very, social focus. So he would always meet people in social settings and then try to sell them an insurance policy. So he was very, in my prominent years or formidable years, I would ride in the car with him around Southwest Missouri and see his interaction with people and businesses. And so that was really a strong kind of learning time in my life on how to handle people.
Yeah. It's all about relationships.
That's right.
It really comes down to it. I mean, I don't know how it is with you in law or whatever business you're in, real estate, but we have 65% referrals. And we deal, after being in business for 42 years, we actually will put roofs on homes twice, right?
Yeah.
Roofs last a long time, but we actually have put multiple roofs in the same house, and not just because of a hailstorm. But without that relationship, you end up having to spend a lot of money getting new clients repeatedly.
Right.
So has that kind of been y'all's?
Yeah, I mean, we're very data driven in today's time. So we look at those numbers, and I think we preach to our agents, 85% of your deals will come from your sphere, your immediate sphere, or a referral from your sphere. So that's how important relationships are to our business.
So what are some of the things that you encourage your team to do to build relationships? I try to get my team to just go out and meet people, whatever that looks like. I'm sure I could, prioritize hiring people that live a social lifestyle.
Right.
But, how do you, what are some creative ideas that you've had your team do to go out and meet people and build relationships?
So as I'm sure you're aware, the real estate business in general is very social. So there's all kinds of different ways to become involved in the community. There's networking events. I agree. Some of our agents even go to lunch every single day and sit by themselves so they can start talking to people around them because they want to build those relationships. So on our side of real estate, where you're a real estate agent, most of those people are pretty confident. They're approachable, and that's how they do it. And so we really promote that, the networks, getting involved in the communities, the church, or whatever they're interested in, for sure.
So you mentioned a lot of soft skills in there, confidence, being able to go talk to people, sitting at a table by yourself and meeting strangers.
Right.
It's really hard to teach those type of things to people, at least in my short experience in a management position. Would you, have you ever had someone that's come in and you've been like, man, this person just doesn't have the social acumen, or maybe not acumen, but desire to meet people? Have you ever seen them turn it around and become very competent?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a learned skill for most part. I do think people are born with certain characteristics that assist in that. But I do think it's part of building confidence in somebody. And if you're confident in yourself, then you're usually more outgoing. So there is some training and there is some stuff that we do to help manage that. I think from the businesses I've been in, especially the law and where you have a lot of highly intelligent people, some of them are very social, but some of them would rather sit at a desk and write a 50-page brief, and they're like talking to a box of rocks, So they're not the ones out generating the new business. They're the ones behind the scene, doing the legal work. So I think even in our brokerage, you're going to have some agents that support agents. From a team perspective, they may even be on a team together. So you'll have the team lead. Probably you're more social, you're more outgoing, you're more confident, and then they're mentoring the team members as they grow their confidence level. So, but it's all tied to confidence.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me because it's hard for me to imagine that some people really love doing the things that I don't like to do. I assume that everyone's like me. And I think that's an assumption that I've got to let go of, that, well, everybody would want to go out and be social. Everybody wants to talk to people. Where it's like, no, some people, the best thing they could do with their day is just to knock out 100 tasks and have a big checklist of things that are done.
Right.
And that's just never going, it's never going to be me. And it feels wrong to be like, to expect somebody to want to do that, but that is someone's like perfect day.
Right.
When did you kind of learn that? Did you learn that early on? Do you remember having those thoughts of, man, how am I going to ask somebody to do this stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I think just looking back on me as a younger professional, I hated being a lawyer, so I was definitely not the type that I sat at a desk and liked drafting the briefs. I liked being in the courtroom. I liked arguing the motions. And then when I founded our law firm in 1998 with a friend of yours, father, Levi McCathern, we, he was the brains from this perspective of running the cases and knowing the law better than I did because he was more experienced. But I was the one out scheduling the meetings with the prospective clients and really being the rainmaker for the firm. Yeah. So our personalities really fit well together. So that's just kind of, I think everybody's past different. And I think the people who enjoy being out front will always be out front. And the ones who are comfortable letting someone else take the credit, then they'll be in the back. Yeah,
no, that's a good point. This might sound like a strange question, but how hard does hard work have to be?
I mean, I don't think there's any substitute for it. I mean, I have been driven my whole life and done everything from an entrepreneurial perspective. I've only had really one boss right out of law school in my whole life. And then I founded a law firm at 28 years old. And then I've been driven, and people still till this day, as we look at the 5 offices we have, I'm the first one texting at 5 a.m. I'm probably the last one texting at 10 or 11 at night. And so that's just how I'm built. Yeah. And some people can't understand it. They're like, when do you sleep? And so that's just part of me. And sometimes people just aren't built that way. And I don't think that'll change. They're either built that way or they're not.
Yeah, no, it's true. Do you think that you operate in your strengths more than your weaknesses? Or what's your attitude towards, I need to sharpen my strengths and be really good, but also I need to maybe improve my weaknesses? But there's probably a fine line on how much time are you going to spend trying to get good at something you're not good at versus getting a lot better at the thing you're naturally gifted in?
Yeah, I think there's there's something that I've noticed about myself is I don't really look in the rearview mirror very often on decisions. I think a lot of times business owners and people in situations really are hard on themselves after decisions made that maybe it was the wrong decision, but there's no way to ever go back and change that. You can learn from it. And I think that's probably one of the things I've learned since starting the real estate company over the last 5 years is a lot more patience and how to deal with people. But if you worry about what decisions you made a year ago, 2 years ago, then you'll drive yourself crazy. Yeah. And so I think that's a big benefit to just being able to move on to the next decision. But I think back to your question, I think you're always, as a business person or a human, you're always kind of going down the path of the things that you're strong at versus what you're not. And I do think I've learned to bring in people in the real estate company for the first time that really are good at the things I'm not good at. And so that's really helped my business.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a scary spot. I mean, I think that we're in a position right now in our business where my dad, he really probably needs a personal assistant, right?
Right.
But it's like, okay, I've got to make less for the hope that it'll make me more. Did you ever bring on a personal assistant at any point?
Yeah. So I built out a team of agents underneath my brokerage called the Mooty Luxury Group. So I have me and 3 other agents, and one of them is kind of my personal assistant. Okay. And it's the first time in probably 10 years since the law firm, which I left in 2012. So going on 11 years or 12. Or 13, 13 years.
The time's moving fast, man.
Yeah, it's clicking as we're talking. So I had a really good assistant as a law firm, as a legal secretary, and paralegals serve as your assistant. Sure. But over the last couple of years, the first time in 13, 14 years, I've had an assistant. Wow. So I love it.
How has that affected your output and productivity?
I've probably tripled.
Really?
Yeah, it's, in our business, there's a lot of paperwork from contracts to, onboarding of clients to working with media companies and marketing teams to help push out our listings and stuff like that. And so from the minute that has taken me out of the equation for the most part, I still try to make as many decisions through that process because I feel like I'm pretty good at it. But it's just freed me up to do other stuff.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah, I've heard similar anecdotes about that. It's like, you risk, you're paying part of your salary out of it, but exactly. Man, you can do a lot more, especially if you're in the business of meeting people and closing deals. Right. You can keep, putting gas in the tank, and people can keep, churning that and making the business run. So I want to, I know we've kind of just been chatting about you and kind of dancing around some of the stuff you've done in your career, but you've done a lot. And I know we could be here for probably a long time talking about all the endeavors that you've done. But I'm curious, you started McCathern Mooty, and at the time it was one of the fastest growing law firms. Yep. You were a young man. What was that like, dealing with the success, the hard work, and then, getting out of that and exiting? Yeah.
So, at that stage in life, I was 26 or 7 when we started talking about, I'd just gotten out of law school and was working for a large law firm here in Dallas of about 300 or 400 lawyers. That's when I realized I didn't really love practicing law. So I was like, I got 2 choices. I can go an entire new path and create another profession, or I can find some guys who love the law and who love practicing law, and I can take them and create a law firm. And so that's what we did. So for the first 3 or 4 or 5 years of the law firm, I was carrying a caseload and trying cases and doing things like a lawyer. But as we grew, and as you mentioned, we were one of the fastest growing law firms in DFW, I started doing more deals for the partnership. So it took me out of practicing law every day to doing kind of more entrepreneurial stuff. So I started a real estate development company. I had a litigation support company. The real estate development company kind of led me down the path of building some homes. I had a home building division, a commercial division. And so the good news was I learned what I was doing. Bad news was I started it in 2005. So about 2009, in the recession, it was a bad time to be in home building and anything kind of real estate or mortgage related. So that was kind of the reason I came to a pivot in life and had to either go back to practicing law full time or exit the law firm and sell my ownership interest back to the partners. So that's what catapulted me kind of into my next phase, which was Blue Star Payments and Blue Star Sports.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Blue Star, so it's POS systems, point of sale systems.
Yeah.
Am I
So
getting that right?
that came about. I was at Cowboys training camp and looking at the sponsorship banners around the practice field. And I said, well, there's no credit card processing sponsorship. So I was talking to the Jones family and they said, well, we have a relationship with Bank of America. And inside that sponsorship agreement is the credit card processing. So brought them the idea of how could we carve that out of that relationship and create what's called an ISO, an independent sales organization. So basically Bank of America was the back end who would run the credit card processing, but I built out a team of salespeople to go meet with merchants, restaurants, anybody who's accepting credit cards, and leverage the Cowboys relationship to move their processing over to our platform.
Gotcha.
And so that's what kind of got the idea rolling.
Wow.
As soon as we kind of started hitting our stride, we got approached by a group, and the CEO was a fantastic processing expert, and he had built out these ISOs and sold them back to WorldPay several times, and they had basically got tired of paying him, so they put in him a non-compete. But he had this idea to go after youth sports technology companies, which has a payment piece at the end. So if you sign your kid up for soccer or cheerleading, you fill out the form, but at the end, there's always a request for payment.
Right.
So he brought that to us and said, look, I love the Blue Star brand. Let's merge my tech idea with your processing idea. We got the Jones blessing, and then that brought with it Bain Capital, WorldPay, GenStar Partners, and all that. So that was a fun time, but a totally different pivot. Then I became the chief business and legal officer. So I did due diligence on about 250 companies in the tech space, analyzing how they built the tech and started educating myself about technology. And then we acquired about 25 of those companies over the course of 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Wow. So the partnership with the Cowboys, I guess you would assume that people would build their business and then go try to land a massive whale of a client.
Right.
Seems like you kind of did it backwards. You got the Joneses, you got the Cowboys, and then you use that to leverage other partnerships. Did you intend to do it that way? Or did you just kind of see a market gap and fill it, and then you went, man, here I am? I mean,
it's out here in the public if you Google me, but I'm Jerry Jones's nephew. So that's
Okay.
always allowed me to have a kind of an ancillary relationship with the organization. My mom and Jerry are brother and sister. So,
oh man, I missed that.
so the good news, the blessing for me is I've got to leverage that relationship and throughout my career, which has opened a lot of doors and allowed me to get the meetings set up that I may have had trouble if that relationship wasn't in place. But the Blue Star Payments was the first time I'd ever gone and run a company for the Jones family. So it was my concept along with another guy in the space, but the Joneses liked it. So they funded it and kind of ran point from a financial perspective for that 7 or 8 years until we sold Blue Star Sports.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, so you worked with these massive private equity firms. That's something that a lot of people have no idea what that looks like. I personally don't. I've never had to deal with people moving that kind of money. How do you position a business to look attractive to those people? I mean, you've got to have really great data, right? And it's got to be reflected in really accurate reporting. Is that kind of all it comes down to? Your EBITDA or whatever,
right? Your EBITDA. Yes, and it was the life lesson in that period of time was you have people with a lot of money, like venture capitalist company, and they are analyzing a company and they remove all emotion from the equation. They're not looking at names on a spreadsheet. They're not looking at who's running it. They're looking at how can we acquire this company and how can we merge it with another company and how can we, ultimately put all that together and sell it. I mean, there's no companies that they acquire that they don't have an exit in mind for the most part, right? So that was really kind of a life lesson because we were doing due diligence on family-owned businesses where they had spent their whole life building this tech, and literally once we would acquire them, then they were merged with our technology, and they became sort of obsolete. Now, did they get a cash event? They got a cash event, so they're usually pretty happy.
Yeah.
But the emotion was taken out of the equation, and then ultimately we ended up selling all those companies in one big package.
Yeah. Wow. So from law to technology, and then, I mean, you said you were really looking at lots of tech companies and analyzing them to try to put them into a portfolio,
Right.
essentially. So, was that something that you ever saw yourself doing? I mean, was that in your wheelhouse? Was that more of just a learning opportunity to go, hey, this is something I can experiment with?
Yeah, it was just a learning opportunity. The door opened and I was kind of pushed through the door to learn it. And so it was, I think what we're seeing right now with AI, and I have two children, one of them just graduated from University of Texas and the other one's still a senior there. In the last couple of years of them being in school, a lot of their paths and their classes have all changed because of what's coming down the pipeline with AI.
Yeah.
So I kind of equate it to back then technology in the early 2000s and early 2010s. That was really where people were focused on growth. And so I just think you have to adjust to some degree.
Yeah. Yeah, AI is kind of scary right now. I mean, it's exciting, but it's also scary. We're in the roofing business, and that's one security is that I don't think AI is going to be putting roofs on anytime soon. How has that affected the real estate market, if at all? And I know social media with just your marketing,
Right.
You've got to be on Instagram, TikTok if you're going to be a real estate agent, right?
Yeah. I think from real estate agents, because it's a service industry similar to roofing. I mean, you need somebody who's going to help you drive that transaction. Where that goes in 5 years and how advanced it gets worries me a little bit. But I do think it's a relationship situation, and buying a home is such an intimate part of someone's family and a decision that they may have a hard time relying on, artificial intelligence. But where it has come in and it's really made the agent's job more efficient, from dictating into ChatGPT a description of a home that might go on MLS, and ChatGPT spits out the description. Or, there's so much going on with photographs and stuff. You can basically take a photograph of an empty house and then ask ChatGPT to place furniture in it for your furniture. So one, you're not having to pay for staging to give a prospect the visual of what it looks like with furniture in it. So there's things that are really helping us. One of the reasons I bought the At Properties franchise from the Chicago group that ultimately became the Chicago was because they had been building a technology since 2003, and kind of leaning on my 8 or 9 years in tech. When I became a real estate agent, I was like, there's no technology in our space other than Compass. And Compass was already so big, I knew I wasn't going to have any kind of ownership or equity position. So once I got familiar with the At Properties technology was one of the reasons I brought it to Texas. And so ultimately, after we launched as At Properties, the announcement came out that At Properties had bought Christie's International Real Estate Affiliate Network. So that's when we started carrying the Christie's brand.
Okay.
But underneath that umbrella is now probably the best technology in the residential space. So when our agents log in to do their job every day, they've got one login, and everything they need to do from a productive standpoint is in there. Their CRM, their document management system, their marketing creation and posting, and their client gifts. We're all just one click away. Yeah.
No, that is really cool. I mean, I've dealt with some realtors, and it seems like that technology is moving pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But I like what you said about, hey, these are tools. AI are tools that can help us do our jobs a little bit easier, a little bit smoother, and it shouldn't be so daunting. We see AI used to the nth degree. I mean, now they're making almost movies
Right.
with this technology. But yeah, to do your everyday tasks, to put furniture in a house, to, say, hey, I've got these questions I'm going to ask a podcast guest. Can you clean them up for me a little
Right.
bit? Whatever it might be. But so for people listening out there, they should know, like, hey, doesn't have to be real intimidating. Just, put something in the chat GPT, ask it a question. It's like, we all learned how to use Google,
Right.
hopefully, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Same deal.
I've got a good history and could probably sit down and write a business plan for a new business. It might take me 2 or 3 months to pull all that data, but now I can probably do it in a few hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's very, very efficient.
That is really crazy. Any entrepreneur has to be comfortable taking some level of risk, right? Where were the big moments in your life where you had to look out and go, I'm going to do this thing, and it could blow up in my face, it could fail, but I'm going to do it anyways? Where'd you get that grit, and what was that experience like diving in?
So I think the grit probably comes from my grandfather that I spoke about earlier, and then obviously my uncle Jerry Jones has been taking risk in front of me my whole life as his nephew. For me personally, when I started the real estate development company, when I was still running the law firm, was probably the first time I really bit off more than I could chew. I was on a lot of personally guaranteed debt, and when the economy changed, some banks were willing to work those problems because I wasn't the only one in that situation, but some of the banks weren't. So I went through a real tough period of readjusting, and ended up having to declare personal bankruptcy even to pivot out of the law firm and out of the real estate. So it was a very, very hard learning experience.
Yeah.
It'll change you from a risk standpoint. So I would say after that, when I got into the tech business and running the Jones company, I was getting a salary with ownership in the company. So the risk was less for a period of time till I mentally readjusted.
Sure.
And then when I kind of got back on my feet mentally, probably more so than financially, was when I wanted to go do something else, which is the real estate business.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a lot of adversity you had to get through. What was that mental shift like over the course of those years working in the financial side of things?
I mean, if you haven't had financial stress, it's probably the worst you could probably ever go through, worse than relationship stress or family stress, just because there's no quick fix. Right. Usually if you're in a relationship and there's stress related to it, you can have counseling, or you can talk to the person you're having a conflict with, or work with your family. But financial stress, if you're at rock bottom, there's no way to push a button and create money. So I would say that was the first time I was probably pushing 40 years old, 39, 40, where I really felt like I had messed up based on all the career and schooling and everything I had done. So it was tough. I'll say that. And it'll still creep in my mind if I'm making a heavy duty financial decision till this day.
Right. Do you think does that lend itself to benefit you? Or do you think sometimes you have to kind of kill that side of yourself that goes, well, Jerry, you messed up before, don't do it again. You kind of got to go, no, you know what? I've got this. I've learned. Yeah.
I mean, I think anytime you're an entrepreneur, you look at things, and some entrepreneurs really dive in and do a full, due diligence balance on risk versus reward. And I think I've gotten closer to that than I was probably 15 years ago, where I would see something, think it was going to work out based on my drive and based on my optimism, and then I would make a decision. And so now I'm a little more frugal with my decision making.
Yeah, man, that hits home, man. I mean, I've been blessed, very blessed to be in the position I'm in, and my dad has given me opportunities to make mistakes and to make some bad decisions, whether that's hiring a marketing company that really didn't do that great for us and we end up kind of losing in the long run, right. Or personnel, whatever it might be. But the ability to make those decisions helps me learn and come to that conclusion that, hey, I've got to do more of a risk analysis on this. I've got to see, hey, what do the numbers say? If it costs me this much, but really, how many deals do I need to get out of this? If I'm doing a marketing endeavor and it's going to cost me $10,000 a month, well, we've got to we've got a net, $500,000 to $1 million for this to be worth it,
Right.
if not more. So switching that from the optimism, like you said, which is, oh man, they're saying that all this is going to happen,
Right.
and you kind of got to start to realize people might not be willingly lying to you, but that, the truth is really in the results.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at the history of people who have made a great decision and are wealthy or have knocked it out of the ballpark, if you study their past, they've made 10 bad ones too. Yeah. So as you get older, and I'll be 56 here in a few weeks. So as these last 10 years of my life, I've started realizing that you still have to take risks. You might miss on 2 or 3, but you're wanting to hit on that 4th or 5th one.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot of that from the VC firms as well, because they'll pick 10 companies and 9 of them will lose and 1 of them will be a $1 billion company.
Right.
And so they just weigh the upside, but they're able to take those risks after studying the companies.
Yeah. So I can kind of relate a little bit. You're Jerry Jones's nephew. My uncle, my dad's brother, real successful guy in oil and gas out in West Texas. And then my dad's also an entrepreneur. But, growing up around these really successful men has been awesome to see the potential and possibility that, hard work and working your strengths and, taking these risks can get you. But at the same time, it kind of can breed a little bit of dissatisfaction with maybe where you are or where you could be. Have you had to deal with any of that with just being part of the family?
I mean, of course. Yeah. It's, when you look at what Jerry has done from the standpoint of, I don't know if you saw the Netflix series about the gambler and his team.
I saw half of it, yeah.
But I learned some things through that Netflix series about him back when he was in his 30s and 40s on some risks he took that I didn't have clear in my mind. But part of when you're rubbing elbows with a family like that, so to speak, based on the relationship, I do wake up sometimes going, how am I not further along in my career? How am I not, having a house in Aspen or something that I aspire to do? So yeah, there's a lot of pressure there.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think that's a great thing. But it also adds a little bit of stress too, a little pressure.
Yeah. So that comes down to values and priorities, I hear nothing but great things about the Jones family. Right. But, for me, at least when it comes down to the personal values, I know that who I spend my time with and the relationships that I build in this life are the only thing that I could take into the next one. Right. And so, what's your perspective on life and business and family and relationships and how to keep yourself centered and to keep things in perspective when you're in an environment that all it wants to do is make you more productive in a business sense.
Right. Well, I do think how my uncle has decided to run the Cowboys organization and all his endeavors by bringing in all the family members and even their kids are now starting to work for the organization. And I see how that interaction and how that family environment looks and feels. I love that. So with my 2 sons, one of the things I wanted to get to when I bought the Christie's affiliate was how do I present myself in 5 or 6 years, looking at what they want to do in life to get experience. 'Cause I kind of think there's 2 ways. You can go work for your parents right out of school, or you can go do a few things and learn some other skill sets. Obviously, my older son, who went to Macomb School of Business and is now in New York doing finance, that's a skill set I don't have. So I wanted him to go pursue that for a period of time and learn how to do due diligence on companies. And then my younger son, who, like we spoke about earlier, is in radio, TV, film, and he's wanting to go work on production sets and even act. So he, I think, will be more of a cog in the wheel that will bring another set of skill sets if they ever decide to come help me run the business.
Is that something that you see happening?
I would love that to happen. Yeah. So we talk about that like that is going to happen, but we all pivot and we don't know.
Yeah. So, we talked about earlier how your son's doing the radio television film. And when he told you he wanted to major in that department, what was your initial reaction? Because I have a degree in acting,
Yeah.
and my parents were like, okay, you know what? He'll get really good at public speaking and talking to people, and we can use that in business. I mean, was there any part of you that was like, man, like, go get your law degree or go study something? Or were you just like, great, son, go have fun?
I think part of, and I'm sure your dad would say the same thing, I'm blessed. Two wonderful kids. When you're around them and see what they like growing up, the older one loved lacrosse and football and the sports, and he was playing the guitar at a young age, so his path was that. But he was also very high intelligent grades and AP courses at ESD and went to McCombs. So you kind of knew that at an early, probably middle school age that was the direction he was going. And then my younger son wasn't a big lacrosse player. He was on the team, but it wasn't what he was driven to do. He got into being the school musical and lead of the musical. So when I didn't really have an expectation for him to do something other than what he's doing,
Right.
if that makes sense. So that's a long way to answer it. But do I want him to go out and do what he enjoys to do for a period of time and then evaluate? Would he go get a postgraduate degree or do something else that can help elevate that? So
yeah. Well, I don't have any kids, but I think supporting your children and not forcing them to do something they don't want to do, I think that's probably the best way to go. So you've transitioned quite a few times from businesses to businesses. Was that out of necessity, or do you kind of are you just kind of having your eyes open for opportunity and you just jump on it when you can? How do you know when it's time to shift?
So I think I'm just built like an entrepreneur because I'm still constantly looking. I'm working on another concept right now in the beverage space with some guys who came from Panera Bread and Jimmy John's sandwiches who've run franchises before. So we're working on a beverage concept called Rolling Joe's. About to roll that out. So I'm always looking, always looking. I want to start more of an investment fund for the real estate side because we see so many deals. We get approached all the time about raising money for developments. So there's another piece on the investment side that kind of brings in the VC experience that kind of excites me. So I don't think I'll stay in one lane, so to speak, very long.
So what, behind that entrepreneurial spark, I mean, is there, other than it's just fun, right? Because I'm sure you're doing what you enjoy to do.
Right.
What is the why? What is the purpose behind all of this?
Yeah, I think there was a period of time where I had a hard time getting out of bed because I didn't love what I was doing. And I would say the last 5 to 10 years, I've loved what I'm doing. And that's the important part, I think, as you get older, especially now that I'm an empty nester and there's no kids, there's no lacrosse games to go to, there's nothing filling up my time. So I think the why is and it's just a maturity deal. Some people may mature at 30, but I think I didn't mature till I was 50. So now I really focus on what I want to do. And I think that's the why is to make myself happy.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I think a lot of times we distract ourselves with things we don't really like doing, and that prevents us from finding the things that really, bring us a lot of joy. I know I've spent too much of my time goofing off in my 20s when I probably didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be in those settings. And now I'm going, okay, I'm getting to know myself again and going, what do I really want to spend my time doing? And to figure that out, you have to have some negative space. Right. It's like you've got to allow yourself to be a little bored. And in this environment, in this world, it's so hard to put yourself in a position of boredom because there's so much going on.
Right.
It's so impossible. Did you have to kind of go through a time where you're like, once your kids are gone, you're going, I've got more time than I've ever had in the past 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
What do you do with it?
I mean, it's a whole different highway that you're on. I mean, I think I'm blessed in some degree because I started this real estate brokerage 5 years ago. right when my oldest son went to went to UT, and then the younger one followed him. So the growth of our company has kind of been what's filled the gap for me. So, I mean, kind of the history is we had 10 agents at the end of the first year, 30 agents, then at the second year, 70 agents. And then now we're pushing 300 agents with 5 offices. So just based on the business taking off, there hasn't been a whole lot of downtime for me to be bored. That's for sure.
So that seems like a massive success, right? I mean, going from 5 to, what did you say, 70, 300?
Yeah, we're about 300 now.
300? Wow. In 5 years.
Yeah.
So would you say this is, out of all your business ventures, has this been the one that had the fastest rise over a time span?
Probably on growth from a headcount perspective, no doubt. From a financial perspective, the law firm first 5 years was more fruitful and financially beneficial. But this has been more fun than anything I've ever done, just because of the people involved. I love the agent mentality. When you think about our business, all our agents are 1099 employees, so they eat what they kill. So the ones that work for us are in the office and they're grinding, they're working on their marketing materials, they're working on their presence. And so I get to see all these people who, if they don't sell a deal, they don't make any money, but they're still driven. So it's kind of pulled my mentality into the right situation, so that I'm happy every time I go to work.
Right.
And so that's the financial piece hasn't gotten there yet, because one, we're going through kind of a downturn in the housing market. But we've been able to grow through the downturn. So it's actually made us profitable because we've been able to add agents through the downturn.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, if they're 1099, you don't have as much overhead as maybe you would otherwise.
Right. But we have, your typical rent and salaried employees, marketing teams, and directors of agents and stuff. So, we should do close to $1 billion in gross production this year, which is up from about 350 to 400 last year. Okay. So even in a down year, we've over doubled our gross production because we've added the right agents.
So how do you plan for that? Do you build infrastructure as your sales team grows? Or so let me ask this a different way. Do you build the infrastructure and then go get the sales team? Or do you go get the sales team and then you build the infrastructure for what they can bring in?
So 2 different things have happened in the 4 years. Initially, we built the infrastructure, the salaried staff and the marketing support, and then we went to recruit agents. And then in the last 12 to 24 months, it's kind of flipped to where we have pockets that we want to have a presence in, like Southlake. And that's been driven by agents wanting to join the Christie's brand. So then we go put in the infrastructure. So it's kind of been a little of both. Yeah. Austin, we ended up bringing over the guy who ran Compass for all of Texas, who was from Austin. And so when we launched there, we launched with 5 or 6 agents that were committed, had temporary space, and then we just had our 2-year anniversary, and we're at 120 agents, and probably we're winning all the awards: best places to work, fastest growing real estate in Dallas. We're Dallas Business Journal Fast 50, and then we made the SMU Cox Top 100 2 years in a row as fastest privately owned company. So we're doing some good things.
Yeah. So I want to hear more about that. This is a new venture for you. I mean, you've been doing this for 5 years now, and we talked about culture before. So what part does that culture play in this growth? Obviously, you've got to have good strategy and good infrastructure and systems, but how is the culture of service, of love,
right?
How has that affected your bottom line and growth in general?
So I think one of the things that I came out of running the law firm for 17 years, because we founded it when we were 28 years old, was we didn't have older attorneys wanting to come work for some 28-year-old kids. So we ended up hiring younger attorneys because those were the only ones that would come work for us. So we ended up having a law firm of very vibrant, outgoing, fun lawyers. And so what I witnessed over that 17 years was we were having fun practicing law, whereas Most other competitors were not. And so if you fast forward into the real estate, I've always believed, and I hear this a lot from our leader in Austin, is culture eats strategy for lunch. And so I really think culture builds success, because if you have the right people working together in a team environment, a collaborative environment, then you're going to grow your business. So we've actually had agents who want to join, and after we've interviewed them, we may not feel like it's a good fit. We'll do some reference calls, and then we'll just decide to walk away from making money on them. Because like you said, the 1099 portion is that they can work for me basically for free. And if they do a deal, then I make money. Right. But if they're the wrong culture fit, then I don't bring them on to the equation.
And that takes a lot of discipline, because they could be someone who does a lot of business.
Correct.
And you still have to pass on them.
And I mean, you're not 100% right all the time. We brought people in, and after 6 months, they're the wrong culture fit.
So what kind of questions do you ask people to figure that out? Or is it a vibe thing? I mean, that's what I want to do. I want to hire people that match our culture.
Yeah. So 2 things I always look at. One of them is, what time do you wake up in the morning? That's one of my favorite questions in an interview process. Because if someone says they wake up at 10 or 11, they're not driven like I am.
Yeah.
Right. And that would irritate me. The other one I look at is, I try to get to know what they do to try to stay healthy. Do they exercise? Do they read? Do they walk? Do they run? And what are their hobbies? Because I think life balance is really important.
Yeah.
And so usually those 2 things will give you a really good picture of a person outside of their skill set of whatever they're going to do for you as a employee or as a contractor. So I really, really, really focus on those things.
That's good. So how early do you wake up in the morning?
This morning was 4:45.
4:45. Man, you got me beat by an hour and 15 minutes.
I'm usually at my desk by 7.
Yeah.
And again, that's back to being an empty nester. I got to do something. My wife's a middle school counselor at Highland Park, so she's out the door pretty early.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of our sequence.
So I don't know how much you're on social media and what you see, but there are some pretty ridiculous morning routines.
I've seen probably
you've seen
all
some of them.
Yeah.
Have you seen the lemon and the ice, and then the cold ice face bath? And I mean, it's like crazy. But I bet there's some merit to all these. Do you have a morning routine that you swear by?
So the cold plunge, I believe in wholeheartedly.
Okay.
So ended up buying a little machine that sits by the tub. It's on a timer, so it can start cooling the water, at 5:30, and it'll be 49 degrees by 6:30 or so. I have a house gym that's kind of Peloton and dumbbell weights and stretching stuff, so nothing serious. But 3 or 4 times a week, I'll try to hit that. And then the cold plunge, I love.
Yeah.
I think it's the greatest thing ever.
Okay. So the cold plunge, use your bathtub.
You can use your bathtub, or you can buy one. They're all over Instagram, and they're not that expensive anymore. They can be a blow up tub with a cover outside that has the engine as part of it. But I kind of got hooked on it from my older son who was preaching about it. The one who lives in New York, and he runs marathons and does a lot of, exercise. And he kind of had a hurt back all the way back from the lacrosse days. And he started doing these cold plunges, and it was a no brainer. And then in the summer, we do a vacation in the Colorado mountains. So he got me in the habit of waking up early and going down to the actual river and sitting in the river, which is the snow that's melted in the last 12 hours. So you're sitting there in the river running over you. So that's how I got broken into the cold plunge.
Cold.
Yeah.
That's cool. Wait, so you're saying your son was able to add to your discipline?
Absolutely.
That must have made you really proud, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's they're driven. So it was great.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, my dad has been very disciplined. I mean, now I race him to the office. I try to beat him here.
Oh yeah.
He was like, "Dang it, you beat me."
It's always competitive.
We have a lot of fun doing that. That's cool. So tell me about, your sons. I mean, I know you build a business, but how do you treat them? Do you treat them kind of the same way you would treat an employee? I mean, how do you parent? What's your at home life like?
I mean,
before they went to college.
I mean, I know how I grew up, and I was in trouble all the time. And ironically, my sons never got in trouble, and so I was like, something's wrong. But times are different. I grew up in a small town. There was less to fill the time. But I've always parented where we do family vacations. We try to spend as much time possible on the phone. Now that they're in different cities, we do FaceTime calls. And I always think I gave them a lot of space to kind of do what they wanted to do. But for the older one, I was pretty hard on driving him to do things because he was a really good lacrosse player, probably could have played Division I, but he was like, Dad, I hate being on the select teams. I hate traveling around all summer. So I was a little different with him than I was Luke because his interests were different. Mm-hmm. So I think what's happened is it's balanced out, and it's created a really a friendship between me and my sons. I think I consider them not only my sons, but we're friends.
Yeah. No, that's really cool that you do those type of character building exercises with your children, especially the cold plunge. I mean, that your older son wanted to bring you along for that. That's just a really cool experience. You guys grow that way together. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure they've learned a lot of that from you as well.
Hope so.
Yeah. So, we talked about raising capital, right? There's a lot of young entrepreneurs out there that are in that game right now. They're trying to find a way to raise capital. What advice would you give a young entrepreneur on how to get big league money?
So, raising capital is the hardest thing I've ever done. Mm-hmm. I just think because the people who you're asking money from are usually pretty highly intelligent. So probably the biggest advice I've had, and I've learned this many times, is if you have an idea or you have a company and you want to raise money to help support that, you really have to present it in the right way. So you have to do even if you have to hire someone to help you put together an investment deck that shows the ROIs and the financial side of your business, but also the vision, because depending on the size, like if you're a startup, somebody's going to give you money because they believe in you more so than they're going to believe in the idea. I had a friend tell me that. He goes, I've always invested in people I believe in, regardless of what they're presenting to me. So when you're a smaller startup type entrepreneur, I think people are going to invest in you because of you, but I still think you need to be organized and present your vision and really be transparent. And even if things go off track after you've raised the money and you're going down the path and you might need more money, I think people look at your drive and you as a person more so than they do the business.
Yeah. So you said the word vision a few times, and I think that as a leader, that's really important to know exactly where you're going, to paint a picture for the team and to bring them along with you on that journey. How do you get the people on your team to buy into the vision and to present the vision in a way that includes them? It doesn't make it just all about the company or all about you as the boss.
Yeah, I think so. The way I run the real estate brokerage is every Monday morning at 9:00, we do a Zoom call with all our agents and our leadership called Monday Mindset. Mm-hmm. And so I'm usually hosting it, or my managing broker out of Boston handles most of them. But it's bringing everybody into the right mindset for the week. And then that feeds right into the 9:30 leadership call. So all the leaders from all the offices go into a Zoom call at 9:30. We let marketing speak for 30 minutes because that's the majority of what we're trying to do is present our company from a marketing perspective and support agents. And then that rolls into where a few of those people fall off the call. And then we're talking to accounting and we're talking to our directors and our trainers and stuff like that. So I think, back to your question, having them involved in everything that we do as a company and not silo someone in an area. So marketing knows what operations is doing. Operations knows what accounting is doing. I think that kind of environment or business structure really creates loyalty, and people are very drawn to transparency in business, I think.
Pulling back the curtain, letting them see what's going on. I like that. So real estate in Dallas. I know we've talked a lot about all the other things you've done, and we've touched on some real estate, but man, I mean, Dallas is growing. It's just insane. We've got park over by the zoo going up. We've got a park right down the street here.
Yep.
It's going to be the largest park in the city of Dallas, which I didn't know that until recently.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah, and all these shared community spaces obviously are going to be great for property value,
Right.
in these areas. Where do you see on the residential side? And I know your team specializes in luxury real estate. Where's the biggest opportunity right now?
So just to make sure the listeners know, we say luxury at every price point. So
Okay,
so
good.
we do everything from a $200,000 lot up to I'm listing a $25 million house in Southlake. So we'll do anything that has to do with making a real estate transaction. But where is Dallas currently and where is it going? Obviously, we're blessed based on logistics with all the companies moving here. The inflow of people moving to Dallas has been really what's kept pricing pretty steady, even increased in a downturn. The transaction count's been down because of the interest rates have been high. Mm-hmm. So the way we've categorized thing is 2 million and below has been very stagnant for the last couple years. 2 million and above, you're usually dealing with higher net worth people who work around the interest rate problem. So that area has really still flourished. So then it boils down to supply and demand, and the supply is still low compared to other cities. So pricing stayed the same, even had a little bump. Your pockets around Dallas where you see a lot of growth is obviously up north in Frisco and Salina, is more your middle price point, that 1 million to probably 3 million. Mm-hmm. Fort Worth, ironically, and the surrounding areas of Fort Worth is actually growing faster than anything on the Dallas side, which is kind of the first time that's happened in the last 25 years. And then you obviously have your higher end pockets like Southlake and Westlake that carry a higher price point, and people are driven to get to the school districts. So we're really blessed here in North Texas. Austin is having a little different rebound from the spike in pricing back in COVID. They've basically had a price reset of probably 20-25%. But now that's set there for about 24 months, then the properties are starting to move. Yeah. You got, the Elon Musk supporting Trump situation down there has helped companies want to move there. Mm-hmm. He's growing his companies and building a city down there. I don't know if you know about that.
I heard about that.
So it's there's a lot of people coming back to the Austin area that kind of stayed on the sideline for the last 2 years. So I think we're in great shape from a residential real estate perspective over the next 2-3 years. Good for you, roofing.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh, I know.
Are y'all seeing a little bump yet?
Well, this year has been a little bit slower, but we've also reorganized a good part of the business with, making things more streamlined, processed, and scalable.
Right.
Because, my dad started this business by himself in '83, and he built it just on building really good relationships with people and being a trustworthy, ethical guy. Right. And over time, he just couldn't handle all the business that was coming his way. So we had to build a team. And it's a scary step going from, I can see everything. I'm not doing everything, but I can see everything that's going on. I know who's where. I got 3 techs and they're doing this thing. And then you get to a capacity where there's no way you can see everything that's going on. And that's kind of where we're at now. And that's a scary step because if you don't have the right middle management to be able to keep eyes on things and keep your standards up and consistent, then things can really get away from you.
100%.
So that's where we're at right now. It's an exciting time, but it's a lot of change.
That's good. Bringing some young family into the equation probably helps, and some new techniques and some new thought processes too.
Yeah. I mean, my dad is not the most technological savvy person, and he would have no problem with me saying that. He totally understands it. He's like, well, how would I know that's a button? Well, what's telling me that's a button? It's just dots on a screen. I'm like, Dad, hey, it's a language. I grew up with it. I don't know how to describe it to you. Just learn to use Google better.
I was smiling when I walked in and he was looking to get the the toll tag on the truck.
Yeah.
So I mean, I kind of got it. But
Great guy. I mean, the most trustworthy guy you could ever meet. He is just, he is, oh, he's so honest and he's so trusting almost to a fault. I mean, he just believes the very best in people.
Yep.
And it's, I'm sure as a lawyer, in your past careers, you've had to learn people sometimes have bad intentions.
oh, there's no doubt.
And that's a big shock for my dad, even at 68 years old,
Yeah.
to go, "What? I just think everybody wants to be good."
Yeah. It's amazing. That is a true fact, and that is something that still raises my eyebrows. I'll recruit an agent that I'm, genuinely trying to bring to our company, and obviously there's sensitivity because they're at another brokerage. And the thing that drives me the most insane is an agent who doesn't just say thanks, but I'm happy, but they go tell on you, and then the broker calls you and said, "Hey, I heard you're recruiting my agents." Like, what benefit does that do for that agent? One, it soured me on the agent, and
Yeah.
two, it created a rift between me and the broker. And there's really no benefit from anybody's side. We're trying to grow our business. If you're interested in having a meeting, we'll have the meeting. If you're not, just say you're happy.
Mm-hmm.
But there's that type of person in every industry for sure.
No, that's tough. That's tough. So as Dallas is growing, I had an interesting conversation with the city congressman a few months ago, Chad West. And what?
Councilman, sorry,
What did I say?
congressman.
Did I say city congressman? Okay.
Councilman.
Yeah.
I don't know if that matters.
Whoops, it does, I guess. No, yeah, a city councilman. I had a conversation with the city councilman, Chad West, and he was talking about the developments of freeways. You mentioned North is growing, right?
Right.
And there's been this history of people that travel from Dallas, the city of Dallas, for work. They come down to the city of Dallas for work, and they buy a property in Addison, maybe now Plano or Frisco. What do you see? How do you see the landscape of Dallas changing? Do you imagine pockets really starting to form, kind of like how your uncle's done in Frisco? They're self-sustaining.
Right.
You don't have to leave Frisco to come to Dallas anymore. It's got its own thing going on. Do you think that's going to be more the trend, or do you still see this? Hey, we're going to build a highway right through downtown Dallas to connect you to Red Oak or whatever it might be, Waxahachie.
Yeah, I think that's the other blessing of being in Texas is we have land to continue to develop, and studying how Dallas has grown north for the last 40 years has kind of been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But it's driven by they put in the Dallas North Toll Road, right? So they put in a highway to drive people north. I personally think where there's really going to see some growth is East Dallas and then Southeast and Southwest Dallas. So all these communities down Oak Cliff included and kind of south of there. Because there's land and the proximity to a downtown, top 5 city in the country.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to benefit off that. And I think the data shows by 2050 we'll be the largest city in the country.
Really? Dallas?
Dallas
proper, or like
DFW?
Okay.
DFW.
Wow.
And Austin's supposed to be number 2. So that just goes to show you the growth of where the world's going in the next 25 years, which you guys will benefit from all that.
Yeah.
I might be still alive. We'll see. But it's coming, and the people are coming, and it's because we have land. If you think about Florida and other communities that are showing growth, they can't build out in the ocean. So they're going to be landlocked.
Yeah. So we've got south of Dallas, right? And that seems like the next place people might do bigger investments. People with a lot of money revamping up these neighborhoods. Let's say you wanted to live close to downtown and you were young in your 20s. Where would you go buy that $200,000 lot to hold on to go, I can live here for a while, I can hold on to it, and hopefully this is going to appreciate a lot in the next 5 to 10 years?
One of my favorite communities is in this area, the Bishop Arts and the Oak Cliff area. I think that is really going to change over the next probably 5 to 10 years. I also like a little community out east of town called Sunnyvale. Okay. And then you got Forney, and you got some pockets out there that are really close to Dallas that people don't realize that you can be downtown in 10 or 15 minutes. There's a lot of money going into those communities from developer perspective. Waxahachie is another really big one where there's some big developments. The Joneses are actually doing a big development there. So I think there's money. I mean, you kind of follow the money.
Yeah.
If somebody's going to put the infrastructure in and put the lots in and the infrastructure, utilities and all that, then people are going to buy those houses.
Is there anything in public records that you can find out where this money is going, or is it all just kind of hush hush?
No, usually there's plats that are filed with the county to get approval and things like that, so you can kind of hear about it. The Dallas Business Journal is usually the first one that are announcing it because those developers are got a tie to the PR of those publications. So a lot of my knowledge doesn't necessarily come from doing research. It's more just staying on top of what's being presented to the community through these publications.
Yeah. So there's a lot of young people that are, I'll just say they complain about not having the same homeownership opportunities maybe their parents did back in the late 80s, 90s, right? What would you say to the disenfranchised homeowner or want to be homeowner and encourage them to get into the real estate market?
So historically, the interest rates go up and down, and I mean right now we're thinking 6.25 is a high interest rate. I think the strategy I would present is find a house that you like and buy it now, and then as the interest rates come down, just refinance. We had a huge refinancing push during COVID because interest rates dropped so low. So that's 90% of the reason why people aren't selling. Right now, we have a huge missing gap in move up buyers because people who bought 4 or 5 years ago during COVID to move up in size or level of house, their payments don't just double; they sometimes triple or quadruple because the interest rates are so different.
Right.
So no one's moving up, so that prevents a little bit of the move-in buyer, first-time buyer. I think. I don't want to come across as political because I'm not, but I do think what Trump's trying to do and put pressure on the Fed to lower interest rates is going to work. He's definitely going to put a new person in January. He's going to probably lower interest rates because he's Trump's guy. And then I think you're going to see kind of we project 2026 is going to be a huge year.
Okay. So, transactions or dollars or both?
Well, transactions multiplied by the price, you're going to have more dollars too. But I think, back to the kind of the strategy is if you can get into a house that as a young professional or young person, you're building equity in that because the pricing in Dallas general for 50 years continues to go up. It's never gone backwards. And even these neighborhoods that you might have to spend a little bit more to get into and you stay there 5 years or 10 years, when you go to sell, you're going to probably make money on the sell. And then you're going to be able to upgrade your level of home.
Yeah. So when you look at real estate as an investment, let's say midterm investment, do you recommend that over, hey, open up an IRA or, just invest into the S&P, unless you're going to get into a large portfolio of houses and have that cash flow on a consistent basis, is just buying a home and saying, this is my retirement. Is that really the best way to go about spending your money? Or would you say, hey, just invest it in the stock market?
Well, I mean, I personally have not had the greatest luck, and I'm 55 in the stock market, right? I've put money in IRAs and 401ks my whole life. And where I've seen the most bang for my buck is buying a house and living in it for a period of time. And it's been my personal residence. And then when I go to sell, just the inflation and the increase in property values has gone up enough to where I'll cash out, be able to upgrade my house. I think it also boils down to the mentality of when you pay rent for a rental house or an apartment, you're just giving someone else all that money. At least if you're buying something, even if you think you're overpaying based on interest rate, you're building equity in that house. So that house is you're paying down the debt, right? And if it's something you stay in 10 years or more, then you've paid down quite a bit of the debt, at least a third on a 30-year mortgage. And then when you go to sell it, you're going to have not only the equity that you paid that would have just gone to a landlord if you're renting. I still think that's the best. if you look at the real wealthy people in our world, in the U.S. in particular, if you go dive into how they made all their money, probably 80 to 90% of them are real estate.
Yeah. And you look at what other countries are doing. They're buying American soil.
Right.
So I mean, there is people wouldn't do it if there wasn't money in it. That's absolutely true. Okay, a couple more questions. I know we've kind of gone a little bit over, but I'm enjoying the conversation. What is a mistake? You've done so many entrepreneurial endeavors. What is a mistake you see young entrepreneurs do early on that sets them up for potential failure?
Taking on too much responsibility. There's very few entrepreneurial ideas that one person can do by themselves. So what I've seen happen a lot is they go raise money to start this endeavor, and they're undercapitalized to really accomplish their goal and their vision. So raising too little money is probably the number one thing I've seen done. And if the people who are giving you money, if they're told that's the reason you're asking for twice as much, let's say you're raising $1 million, but you think to protect their investment, I'd rather raise 2 just to have some, powder in the bank. So that's how I've always set my deal up, is I give a cushion in the amount I'm raising. And obviously if that cash isn't used, then it can be used in some sort of distribution back to the investors at a quicker rate.
There you go.
But I think that's probably the number one thing is just not asking for enough money.
Wow. Yeah.
Sounds easy, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's a mind. It messes with your mind, but you go, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, let's just say it's a small amount, like $10,000, and that might be a lot to some people. And if you say, well, that $10,000 times 10 is 100,000. Here's what that does to my P&L and my balance sheet. If I raise $200,000, so instead of you giving me 10, you give me 20, then your investment is more protected. Yeah. And so I just think that's a way to look at it and present it to your investors.
And have that transparency with them.
Correct.
To say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and here's where the funds are allocated, and this part of this is kind of a safety net.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And you think that, the investors, the venture capital investors, they're going to see that as wisdom coming from a young entrepreneur?
Absolutely, because they're going to see the money. They're going to see where the money goes. And as an entrepreneur, business owner, you're going to give them quarterly reports, and you're going to give them some sort of transparency into how the business is doing, because that's what an investor wants to see. So if you trust the person you're giving the money to, then there's not going to be any proprietary or improprieties that are done. And so there should be a cash balance sitting in that account as the thing starts to take off, and then you use that cash for whatever way you want, paying back the investors, or a lot of times the business might have an opportunity that it didn't have in the beginning. Then you have cash sitting there, and you can pursue that opportunity.
Right.
So
yeah,
hopefully that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned earlier on that these investors are really looking at who you are.
Correct.
And you might have a great idea or a business plan, which is, what they're ultimately there for. They want to see the plan work. But if they're not the kind of person that the investors believe in, there's probably not a shot that they're going to get any money from somebody.
Not usually.
Mm-hmm.
Not usually. And, the investor they like the person, but they also want to make sure that, I hear this all the time, what are you going to do if you run out of money? Right? What are you going to do? Well, the documents say I'm going to go back to the investors and do a capital call, and so I'm going to have to ask you for more money. So, it's either on the front end, or if things don't go the way they're planned. And I just think it shows a little more transparency and protection of the investment if you're not having to do it on the back end. One, you're not guaranteeing yourself that all the investors are going to recapitalize, because they may have gotten cold feet because it didn't work the first time. And so you're going back to your investors saying, hey, I need another couple $100,000, even though my business plan didn't work.
Right.
So it's something that I think, you really got to understand.
It's part of your business plan.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So looking ahead, into Christie's at properties, the next chapter of your life, and then leaving your legacy. What does that look like in the coming 5 years, and then for the rest of your tenure there?
Well, I mean, everybody in my family's worked into their 80s, so I don't think I'll retire. I think I'll want something that I enjoy doing. So I don't really see an end to Christie's and me being involved unless I sell it, right? Which I have no plans on doing now. The vision is right now we're the only Christie's affiliate in all of Texas. There was one in Houston that was terminated in January, and so our territory could be all of Texas, and so that's where I want to go. Wow. We just are in the process of opening our fourth office here in DFW in Southlake. We've got about 12 agents committed, and we hope to get to about 20 by Christmas. But we've signed a lease, and we're doing the TI and doing that, and then we'll probably grow into San Antonio next. Wow. And so we'll kind of have the whole 35 corridor all the way down to the border.
Yeah. So big things on the horizon.
Yeah.
Yes.
So legacy, we get a lot of awards for best places to work, and our agents get accolades for production and all that. But so far, the ones that mean the most to me are kind of the SMU Top 100 and the DBJ Fast 50 that are showing that we're growing a company regardless of industry. And so far on the SMU 100, both years we were the only real estate brokerage like ourselves, and we were the only real estate brokerage on the Fast 50.
Yeah. So, what is, if you had to say one thing, what is your secret sauce for getting this thing off the ground and moving at the rate that it's going?
People. Always people. I think I hired the right people to start it, from a director of agents who I've known 35 years. She'll tell the story. I texted her at 3 a.m. Hey, I'm looking for this person. And I listed it out knowing it was her. And she goes, she was a trainer for Daisy Brands. and she didn't have her phone turned off. And so it woke her up at 3. And she said she laid in bed from 3 till 7 knowing it was her. And so at 7:05, she called and she goes, you're talking about me, don't you? And I go, yep. I said, she goes, I've been up 4 hours. And I go, well, let's go to lunch. And so I specifically chose her. I'd been trying to hire her at the law firm and Blue Star Sports and everything along the way, just because I believed in her and her work ethic. And then we just really were strategic in who we placed around her and I to grow. So, I mean, we had a marketing coordinator, then we added just the right people. And I think when you're supporting in a service industry like real estate, and the agents are your client technically,
right?
They got to love coming to work and they got to feel supported. So I feel like we've done a really good job there.
That's awesome. Okay, well, is there anything you want to leave people with?
No, this has been great.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. I'm glad to get to know you guys and your business and how we can help you, as obviously we have a lot of agents. We can create some sort of preferred vendor relationship and push this out to all these people buying new homes. And it's all about networking and relationships.
Yeah, and there is one thing that I don't know if you've heard of that's called fortified roofing. So, with all the insurance claims that come through North Texas, we're the #1 area for hail in the country. What costs insurance companies the most money is interior water damage.
Wow.
So the roof can, they're spending tons of money replacing roofs, but if leaks into their $40,000 remodeled kitchen, then it ruins everything in there. Now they've got a lot of problems. If it gets into electrical, huge problems. So Florida, Miami-Dade County, they have some of the strictest building codes in the country because they get all those hurricanes.
Right.
And so the fortified program, it makes your roof really watertight. So if you've seen people build a home, you've built homes in the past, and they put the seam tape on all the exterior walls. They do that on the roof too.
Okay.
So you're taping off all the seams on the roof. You have to put more screws in the deck, and all the perimeter of the roof is reinforced. So it prevents wind from, driving rain into the structure, into the house, and leaking on the interior. The roof itself could blow off, right? But as long as the water doesn't get inside, then the insurance company saves a lot of money. So where it used to be that impact-resistant shingles would save people money on their premiums, Now it's not quite there yet, but it's going to be fortified because they've noticed these impact resistant shingles, they're still asphalt based products. We've been given discounts on them, and it really doesn't work that well.
Right.
It doesn't work that well. But now we have synthetic products, and then the fortified, which is going to keep water out of the house, it will actually save the insurance money. So for homeowners, I had one client come up to me at an event this past weekend and said, I'm saving $4,000 a year in perpetuity on my homeowner's insurance because of this roof you guys put on.
That's great.
Because it's a class 4 synthetic product. So these are things that we love to tell your agents about.
Yeah.
I know it can be kind of scary for sellers, especially, to go, I want to find out all the problems that I have on this property that I'm about to put on the market.
Right.
But insurance companies are going to be so much more thorough. It's going to be hard to get away with all these roofing issues.
Insurance is out of control. It's actually preventing some people from buying houses. So we are working through that. So I'd love to learn more about that.
Yeah.
I do have a question on the metal roof versus the synthetic roof. Do metal roofs get hail damage, or are they hail preventative?
So they are class 4.
Okay.
The thing to know about hail on metal roofs is a lot of times they'll have a cosmetic disclaimer. So if the hail damages the aesthetic and has these little dents in the roof, but it's not enough to actually damage the integrity of the structure of the metal, they might say, hey, we've got this clause in here, you're not covered if there's hail.
So it's just the aesthetics, though.
It's just the aesthetics. You can get a third party involved, and the argument there is that if there's any type of cupping on a metal roof, it can hold a little bit of water. And if that paint layer on the outside is compromised, it can begin to rust. So there's always an argument to be made, and we've done that before on properties, and we'll get a third party public adjuster to come handle that for us because we're roofers. We're not allowed to talk about all that stuff. But we can get a third party in there on those instances, and usually they can come to some sort of an agreement.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to Building Dallas. Thank you, Jerry, for coming on the show. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Building Dallas, where we bring the stories that shaped North Texas. Subscribe, share, and stay connected. Until next time, keep building. Building Dallas is presented by Arrington Roofing, keeping North Texas covered, rain or shine.